Let's update you now on the diplomatic efforts happening at the United Nations. Russia condemned the bombing in Damascus, and the foreign minister for Russia, Sergei Lavrov, warned against outside forces playing favorites with one side over the other. In part, Lavrov said, quote, "If it is a revolution, the United Nations should have nothing to do with that." There's still no agreement at the UN on additional sanctions against Syria. The Security Council vote is now delayed until tomorrow. Let's go live to the UN and Germany's ambassador there, Peter Wittig. Thank you very much for joining us. What is your reaction to Sergei Lavrov's pronouncements today that, look, if this is a revolution inside of Syria, why does the UN need to have anything to do with it? Let it play out as it should in Syria.
We believe the dramatic events in Damascus today underline as clearly as never before that the Security Council now has to act. It has to send out a strong signal to the Syrian regime to stop the use of heavy weapons. We want to give the Annan plan, which we all support in the Council, some teeth, and that's why we should adopt a resolution with a sanctions threat. We've got to use all our political and diplomatic tools that we have at our disposal.
But you still talk of the Annan plan. Is there anybody who still really believes that there can be a political transition involving Bashar al-Assad in the current environment in Syria?
The Annan plan, which we all subscribe to, including Russia and China, says that first of all, the heavy weapons that are being used by the Syrian regime have to stop. That's number one. Yeah. And that's why we have to threaten the Assad regime with sanctions if it doesn't do so. And then a political process can start. Before there is no stop of the heavy weapons and before Assad doesn't heed the call, there is no political transition process with any hope.
Right, but the rebels are clearly saying, and those who are observing the situation in Syria now, there is no more political dialogue possible. Do you think a political dialogue is still possible, even if point one of the Annan plan is respected?
I think we have a responsibility to exhaust all political and diplomatic means to find a solution to the conflict. We don't want this conflict to be played out on the streets of Damascus with heavy weapons and guns. No, we've got to try everything that is politically and diplomatically feasible, including the threat of sanctions, to give it a turn towards a peaceful solution.
But let me ask you one last question. Here you have Russia that's been very clear about its opposition to text in any Security Council resolution that threatens sanctions. You keep repeating sanctions as an essential component of a Security Council resolution. Russia has already said it will not agree to that. What's going to happen?
Well, Russia says it doesn't like sanctions, but they have then to take the responsibility to see this country further slide into chaos and civil war. So the vote has not taken place. It's still time. The vote will be tomorrow. And we think it's wise that Russia and China assume their responsibility and be united with the rest of the Council.
So do you think tomorrow there'll be an agreement at the UN, at the Security Council?
There's still time, and I think there's still time for Russia and China to look at it in a positive way and come around to the majority of the members of the Council and not oppose this relatively mild but still clear resolution.
All right. Thank you very much. Peter Wittig, the German ambassador to the United Nations, joining us live from New York this evening.